Hi, this is Joe Audette. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I'm the primary developer of cloudscribe, which is a set of libraries for building web apps on ASP.NET Core. In this tutorial or demo, I'm going to show you very quickly how cloudscribe Core can be a really awesome back-end authentication system for Xamarin apps because of our identity server integration. And if you want to follow along at home, what you want to do is clone this repo, cloudscribe sample-id server. I recommend that you put it in a very short folder name. I have put mine under _C as my root folder, and then cloned it into there. And the reason for that is on Windows you can run into long file name errors, and it's pretty common, I guess, in Xamarin development because the packages have long names. And it also can happen with the data storage that I'm using is file system based. That way I could pre-populate the client configuration, and the files are named on disk with GUIDs, and so they can get long. But if you use a short folder, you won't run into any problems. So clone it into a short folder. Then what you want to do is Control-Shift right-click on this folder and open a PowerShell window here. You want to do .NET restore -- no cache to make sure you've got it all up to date with all the NuGet packages. And then you want to do .NET build. Now there's a lot of things in this. I'm just going to exit at that point. There's a lot of things in this solution. The OP server is the actual cloudscribe with identity server integration, and these are sample web clients. The X client folder has the Xamarin form sample. I'm going to go ahead and open that one up in Visual Studio. Now I'm a web developer. I don't really develop Xamarin apps. I've only had a little bit of involvement with them, so some of this is fairly new to me. It took me quite a while to figure out how to get this client working. Part of it had to do with the Android emulator and making it talk to localhost on the computer, which you can do with a special IP address. I'm going to show you in this project here in the main page xaml.cs. This is where the client is configured, and this 10.0.2.2 is a special IP alias for localhost on the computer so that the Android emulator can talk to the computer, because on any machine localhost means itself. So if you use localhost, that just means it's right on the Android emulator. And this is our client configuration for identity server. The other thing that I found after I got it working was that Xamarin client seems to really want, or well, I guess it's this OIDC client options. By default, it's going to require HTTPS, and I had to set it to false since I'm not using that on this host. I guess I should open up two solutions because I want to show you also the actual web app. Now I put the Xamarin in a different solution altogether because it requires you to have a lot more tools for it to even build, and I wanted you to be able to build the web solution even if you're not doing Xamarin stuff. So I'm going to go into my C sample ID server, and then this solution in the root is the main one with the web apps and the web client samples. And then I'm not going to run it from Visual Studio. I'm going to run the OP server, which is the web app, from here just using PowerShell. Let's say .NET run, and then you can see it launches on this localhost at this port. You can just Control-C to copy that. Open a new browser tab and paste that in. And I'm going to log in here so I can show you how the clients and the APIs are configured. You can log in with admin@admin.com, and the password, it's written on the GitHub README, but it's $S secret 12345. Oops, I didn't type it right. Okay, so when you log in as administrator, you get a new administration menu appears, and these three menu items here have to do with the identity server integration. It's where you can define identity resources, the APIs you want to protect, and the API clients. Now, for this sample, with the Xamarin sample is actually going to talk to an API that's right in the same web app as the actual ID server. So the controller here is this identity controller, and you can see that it is protected by an authentication scheme admin policy, which means you have to be in the administrator's role to access this, and it just returns JSON with your user claims and roles. And in the Xamarin client, you want to rebuild the solution, make sure it builds. I've already done that, so I'm just going to skip it and hit this Android emulator play button. Now, I do get some errors logged in here, and maybe someone who's a better Xamarin expert than me could come along and send me a pull request to fix some of these. But I am able to get it running. Sometimes it hangs in the startup process at a certain point, right? Yeah, this might be the point. We'll see if it gets there or not. If it does, you just cancel the build and then do it again, and it goes the next time. And again, I think some of these issues can be solved. See these conflicts with C#. There's another one with MS Core Lib, and I would love it if some Xamarin expert would come along and make a pull request to fix that. I actually watched a video that's supposed to explain how to fix that, and I still couldn't do it. Okay, that seems like it's hung, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this build. And then when the button comes back, I'm just going to do it again. And there it goes. So it's working that time. I'm going to minimize Visual Studio, both instances and the web browser. I want you to be able to see in the back end here, this thing is logging as we connect. So I'm going to click the login button, and you can see web request is hitting the back end, and it pops up the browser window. And again, I'm going to log in with admin@admin.com, and the password is $secret with a capital S 12345, and then you just click login. And now we're logged in, and you can see just kind of dumping the access token onto the screen, so you can just see what we got back. And now I'm going to call that API. And you can also see how it logged some things on the server side. Call API, and then see that hit the API, and it just brought back that JSON serialization of the user claims, which is just roles and claims and the scopes that we configured for the client. I want to just go ahead and quickly give a tour through those client settings. I've got several clients configured. This one is native.hybrid. And this is just a demo. Typically for a real production app, you should probably use a unique GUID or something for the ID. You can use whatever you want for the name display purposes. But for this demo purpose, I just used the simple name. This actually borrowed the Xamarin sample from the Identity Server guys and just modified it to work with this localhost setup. And so, you know, there's an example here. If you're trying to configure your own Xamarin app, you can look at this working one, and you can see what we've got configured: the redirect URLs, the post-logout redirect URLs. The allowed grant type for this, for a native app, should be hybrid, allowed scopes, and that's about it for the client setup. But there's a lot of settings here. There's kind of a lot to know, and that's why I think it's good with this repository. I'm using a file system storage, so the clients are all pre-configured, and you can see how they're configured, and you can compare it when you're setting up your own clients. Now, going back over here, the API resources, there is Tenant 1 SPA, which is another application entirely with its own API. I'll demonstrate that in a different tutorial. This ID server API is an API that's built right into this same web app as the identity server and cloudscribe itself. And all we're really saying on that one is we want to get the role claims, because we need to authenticate, and we want to see those roles come back on the screen. And then under identity resources, you can see where we've got, you know, email, offline access, OpenID, and profile. There's not much to those. There's really just names and enabled. So that's really the main gist of it, and you can see that it's pretty straightforward to log in and protect an API with an actual policy, which we see here, admin policy, and that is a policy defined in the startup of the OP server. It's actually in an extension method. It's using the default setup from cloudscribe, which says that particular policy just requires the role administrators. And those are set up down here in configure auth policies, and this is this line right here. But it's very similar to something like this. It would just say admin policy, and it would say require the role administrators, and that's it. So without being in that role, you could not get to that API. And that is pretty much it for this demo. I hope you'll try it out yourself, and if a Xamarin expert comes along and wants to help me improve this demo, pull requests would be welcome if you're still seeing errors by the time you try it. So you click log out, and you just close the little browser, and you're back here. Okay, thank you very much for watching.